So guys, without further ado, I want to talk about my thoughts on BlizzCon 2019 as a whole, as a show, as a spectator of BlizzCon 2019. What were kind of like my initial thoughts on BlizzCon? And I know there's been a lot of people, lots of people have come out and other creators and such saying, kind of giving their thoughts on BlizzCon 2019. And I'm going to say this, guys. BlizzCon 2019, from a viewership perspective and just kind of entertainment value and just kind of an hype value, I guess you could say, this was one of the best BlizzCons I've witnessed or watched, because I've never actually attended BlizzCon, in person, but actually being able to watch everything that got announced this year was quite remarkable. It felt like there were so many highs and lows, though, with BlizzCon 2019. So it was like kind of mixed emotions. But overall, as far as what was announced, man, the hype value was absolutely huge, and they did a really good job with that. And so I thought that was a very big high point for BlizzCon 2019 was all the stuff that got announced, which we'll talk about here on the show, which, of course, guys, that being like Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, so on and so forth. I mean, there was just a number of different games that, number one, got announced, which they haven't done this in years, it's felt like, that there has been multiple games getting announced at once. Like, it has been a long time since I remember seeing or, hearing them even announcing more than one thing usually each year. And each year they usually aren't announcing like multiple big, some of their big IPs. A lot of times it's just like expansion packs or, a couple of new heroes for one of their games like Overwatch or something. Generally speaking, it's usually nothing more than maybe a new expansion each year. And over the past few BlizzCons, man, they really haven't announced much at all besides, like I said, some heroes in Overwatch and, little updates here and there, co-op commanders for StarCraft 2. So really, it's been kind of BlizzCon for the past few years just really hasn't met the expectations of years past, but this year was a change in that. I hope that we see a continuation of this moving forward in certain ways. Of course, like I'm saying, talking about some of the announcements that they made, I would love to see a continuation of that, like more and more announcements over time. I think that would be absolutely great to see more and more games being announced, whether those are new IPs or current IPs that Activision Blizzard owns. I think that would be really great. But I think what happened, though, with BlizzCon 2019, they kind of, and when I say they, I mean Activision Blizzard, they spent so much time trying to rewrite the ship in the right direction, right? When from last year, when they announced Diablo Immortal right off the bat as their, mobile game, instead of announcing that alongside of Diablo 4, they waited a whole year. So they knew they had to bang that out of the park right off the gate. They had to announce Diablo 4. And I think that was a very smart thing for them to do. So everyone's now forgiving them for, the Diablo Immortal, controversy that was last year. On top of that, they, of course, announced Overwatch 2, which I think is very interesting. I'm not sure what I really think about them doing in Overwatch 2 as of yet, but we'll talk about that here shortly. And then, of course, guys, World of Warcraft Shadowlands, which World of Warcraft's a game that I've played here and there, but I never really got into it as much as some people have. And so I'm not fully invested in that community, but from what I saw of it, it seems pretty cool. The things that really bothered me, though, guys, were some of the ways in which they treated the esports side. Because what it has felt like in the past is maybe they don't announce anything at BlizzCon, but at least the production value and the games in which there are, whether we're talking Hearthstone or, in the past Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft 2, Overwatch, World of Warcraft Arena, so on and so forth, all these different games that have, tournaments going on around them during BlizzCon, which is usually the world championships of some of these games. Usually that's what the strength is of BlizzCon, when they don't really announce anything. Well, this year it would have been a perfect BlizzCon had everything gone correctly, of course, with the announcements, which those went very well. And then also with the esports side of things, which I thought went pretty poorly overall. And we'll talk about that here today, because really I could talk in at length about the treatment of Overwatch, but we're going to mainly talk about StarCraft here, guys, because StarCraft, it felt like, because the thing about it was that the Overwatch World Cup kind of, not that the production value wasn't good, but it just felt like when Blizzard decided to put a recap video together, they didn't show StarCraft, and they really didn't show anything on Overwatch either. They didn't really show much of anything around the esports side of just these tournaments. Now, they, of course, showed Hearthstone, because we had the first female champion in Hearthstone, which was absolutely awesome. But at the same time, I felt like they really pushed StarCraft as well as Overwatch kind of to the side, which is very strange to me, because Overwatch is such a huge IP now for Activision Blizzard.